I don't know what kind of deal these developers made with the graphics gods, but some games from a whole decade ago are still out here putting modern titles to shame. Like, how are these so-called outdated games aging like fine wine while some new ones look like they were rendered on a microwave? Let's dive into 15 absolutely stunning games that might be old, but they're still flexing harder than half the next-gen catalog. There's no logical reason a game from 2015 should still be making newer games look like they were made in someone's garage using potatoes and MS Paint. Arkham Knight had Batman gliding through a rain-soaked Gotham so beautifully rendered, I started feeling bad for actual cities. The puddles looked so crisp, I nearly dipped a biscuit in them. The Batmobile? Yeah, it handled like a hyperactive rhino, but I didn't care because the reflections on it made me question my monitor. Don't even get me started on Batman's armor. Each scratch, dent, and cape flap was a physics miracle. Meanwhile, some modern titles out here giving us NPCs that blink like broken printers. When this game turns night into art and your GPU into molten cheese, you know it's still the alpha of graphics. I've seen fewer details in some Marvel movies. It's 2025 and we still haven't caught up. Gotham wins. Let me tell you, Uncharted 4 didn't just raise the bar, it chucked it off a mountain, set it on fire, and built a new one made entirely of graphical wizardry. This thing came out in 2016, and it still looks like it's judging every game released after it. I've played recent games where water looks like gelatin, but in this one, it slaps, shimmers, splashes, and somehow made me thirsty. Nathan Drake's hair moves with more purpose than my entire life. Every muddy slope was so realistic, I found myself apologizing to my controller every time he slipped. The lighting? Pure witchcraft. Even the rocks looked like they were sculpted by a divine hand with a love for rugged masculinity. And don't get me started on that Madagascar chase scene. I felt like I owed Naughty Dog money after experiencing it. This game humiliated modern graphics so hard, I swear I heard Unreal Engine cry. Hitman Absolution is that sneaky X that looks hotter every time you look back, while your current game is stuttering at 20 FPS wearing flip-flops made of bugs. Released in 2012, and yet it looked like IO Interactive broke into the future, stole tech from 2026, and then politely used it to make Agent 47 look like a bald, shiny god of death. The lighting in this game? Unholy. I once spent 15 minutes in a rain-drenched alley just watching steam rise from a grate like I was in a perfume commercial for Assassins. The crowd scenes were so dense and animated I half expected someone to sell me a hot dog. Plus, the environments had more style than a fashion show on Mars. Modern games have HDR and ray tracing and yet still somehow look like cardboard boxes arguing. But Absolution? That game knew how to murder your GPU and your insecurities. Second Son was supposed to be a PS4 launch-era title, but I'm convinced Sucker Punch snuck a PS7 in there. It was basically a tech demo for how many glowing particles can we shoot out of a man before your console screams. The neon powers alone looked like someone gave a rave to a physics engine. I've seen real-life cities that looked less realistic than Seattle in this game. The reflections on puddles? Gorgeous. The lighting? Cinematic. Delson's jacket? It flapped in the wind with more charisma than most actors. I once got distracted from a mission because a man sneezed in the background and I had to admire the particle spray. This game didn't just age well, it aged aggressively. Some modern games can't even figure out how to load textures on time. Meanwhile, Second Son is out here flexing on every title born after it like an older brother who bench presses mountain ranges.
It should be a large, heavily armored mobile unit with side ports and major communications gear on top.
Alright, I think I see it.
Ryse is like that game you bought because it looked pretty, stayed because it stayed pretty, and then wondered why Rome doesn't have more slow-mo neck stabbing in its history books. Critics dunked on it for being shallow, but graphically, it looked like Michelangelo was hired to model every abs-on-abs Legionnaire. The armor gleamed like someone applied oil and divine light in every cutscene. Facial animations? I've seen less emotion in Oscar-winning films. The environments? I once paused during a battle just to admire some mosaics that looked better than my wallpaper. Fire, blood, sand, it all blended into a gorgeous mix of ancient murder poetry. Even in 2025, I haven't seen a Roman game top this level of visual decadence. Most games now give you muddy browns and 2 polygons taped together. Ryse gave you a museum exhibit that occasionally lets you chop a dude's arm off. That's art. I booted up Witcher 3 again recently thinking, let's see how this old boy's doing. And 5 hours later, I was still admiring Geralt's beard in photo mode. This game came out in 2015 and still looks like it was rendered by Slavic gods with ray tracing running on pure vodka. The weather system alone deserves its own Nobel Prize. Clouds roll in like they've got personality, sunsets hit harder than heartbreak, and the water shimmers like it's flirting with you. Toss in swamps, snowy mountains, and every bush that slaps Geralt in the face as he rides by. And suddenly, I forget why I ever needed a next-gen console. Even before the update, this game was visual sorcery. With the update, it makes new games feel like digital cave paintings. Honestly, half of modern open worlds look like Witcher 3's beta. CD Projekt Red didn't just raise the bar, they braided it into Roach's tail and rode off into legend. Black Flag didn't just give us pirates, it gave us the sexiest ocean in video game history. I'm serious. That water, I've seen real beaches that look faker. When a storm hits and your ship's being thrown around like a rubber ducky in Poseidon's bathtub, it's so good you want to clap. The sunsets make you forget you're about to get stabbed by British soldiers, and the way sails ripple in wood splinters. It's like Ubisoft made a game just to bully your graphics card. And this was 2013. Meanwhile, some modern games still struggle to animate a proper fish. Edward Kenway may have had the morals of a spoon, but he sailed through a world that looked like a postcard from a planet that does graphics right. The ocean in Black Flag could fight me in real life and win. It's that powerful. Every time I play it, I start drinking rum and yelling yo-ho at birds. Far Cry 3 is that wild tropical fever dream that came out in 2012 but somehow still looks sharper than your cousin's $80 next-gen shooter. The foliage? Lush? The fire physics? Way too flammable for something that old. Light bounces off the ocean like the sun personally approved every pixel. I once got attacked by a Komodo dragon and paused the game, not because I was scared, but because I was too busy admiring the lighting on its scales. Voss is iconic, but the real villain here is how good this game still looks, while some modern titles out here giving us textures so blurry it's like someone smeared peanut butter on the screen. And don't even get me started on the skies. The sunsets feel like they were hand-painted by Bob Ross on a mission trip. Far Cry 3 may have gone full psycho, but it looked good doing it. And in gaming, that's what counts. This game didn't just look good, it made orcs look cinematic. That should be illegal. Shadow of Mordor came in hot in 2014 with lighting so dramatic, every fight felt like it was directed by Peter Jackson's younger, edgier cousin. You could slice an Uruk's head off and still catch the sun glinting off your sword like it's auditioning for a fragrance ad. The ash-covered landscapes of Mordor somehow managed to be grim and gorgeous at the same time. Plus, the weather effects were like mood swings from Mother Nature herself. 1 minute it's gloomy, the next minute the whole place is glowing like Sauron's eye got a color correction pass. And the animations? Crispier than potato chips in a microwave. I've played 2024 games where enemy movement looks like they're stuck in a PowerPoint slide. Mordor made murder look like modern dance. If this is what dated looks like, then sign me up for a time machine. Mirror's Edge, the game that made me believe parkour could be spiritual. Mirror's Edge was released in 2008, but the visuals were so clean and stylish it could pass for an indie title released next month with a $50 minimalist DLC. That bright, sterile, utopian color palette somehow made leaping off rooftops feel peaceful. The lighting? It slapped. The shadows? Crispier than a new bag of chips. And that red? Oh, that glorious shade of red on every ledge you needed to grab. It practically whispered, "Come die over here." I replayed it recently and it still runs smoother than most new games after 4 patches and a prayer. Faith's animations were fluid, the city felt alive in a weirdly empty way, and the whole vibe just screamed future, even though it's technically from the past. Mirror's Edge was too ahead of its time and still makes modern graphics look like they were drawn by someone halfway through giving up. This game is the definition of you don't know what you got until it's gone. The Forgotten Sands might have been sandwiched between weirder Prince of Persia phases, but man, graphically, it showed up in royal fashion. The flowing sands, the glowing time powers, the glittering palaces that looked like they were sponsored by gold, this game was dripping. Ubisoft somehow gave us an ancient Middle East fantasy that looked like it was designed by a bunch of artistic falcons mid-flight. Sand would explode and float in the air like it was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. I still can't believe this came out in 2010. Meanwhile, modern games have water that looks like soup and characters who blink like possessed dolls. The Forgotten Sands took a forgotten prince and gave him a golden spotlight, and then modern games tried to catch up and tripped over their own boots. Respect the sands, people. Respect the sands. If Christopher Nolan had a fever dream and fed it into an Xbox One, you'd get Quantum Break. This game didn't just break time, it broke my brain and probably a few GPUs along the way. The time warping effects were so wild, I genuinely wondered if I had walked into a tech demo or some kind of visual TED talk on particle physics. Explosions froze midair, debris sparkled in slow-mo like magical confetti, and the whole screen would ripple like a jellyfish having an identity crisis. And don't get me started on the lighting. It was so buttery smooth, I wanted to spread it on toast. Sure, the story went a bit sideways and had more TV drama than necessary, but the visuals were peak performance art. I've played newer games that try the same vibe and end up looking like someone accidentally applied Instagram filters to a slideshow. Quantum Break was chaos, but chaos in 4K HD with bonus time magic. Let me tell you, Hong Kong and Sleeping Dogs is so damn sexy, I almost booked a vacation before realizing the real city doesn't have this many neon reflections or convenient martial arts gangs. The night scenes are pure chef's kiss. Rain falls like it's trying to audition for Blade Runner, puddles reflect everything except your regrets, and those street food stalls, they glisten like the developers had Michelin star dreams. This game came out in 2012 and still makes some 2025 titles look like retro mods gone wrong. The city feels alive in a way most modern open worlds can only dream of while sobbing softly into their procedural generation systems. And Wei Shen, that man walked through a light source like it owed him money. Sleeping Dogs didn't just show off with style, it straight up made a statement. I'd replay it just to walk through a night market and pretend I understand how lighting engines work. People love to roast The Order 1886 for being short, but let's be honest, it wasn't a game, it was a full-blown Victorian thirst trap. Graphically, this thing still looks like it was filmed on a soundstage inside your GPU's wildest dreams. The smoke, flawless. The mustaches, legendary. The lighting, so good it should have gotten billing in the credits. Every time I boot it up, I forget I'm playing a game and not watching a really intense British period drama where people occasionally shoot werewolves in the face. Even now, games try to match this level of photorealism and end up looking like wax statues under budget lighting. Say what you want about the runtime, every single second of it was dripping with visual polish. If cinematic quality was a sport, The Order would have taken gold, silver, and the snack bar. It didn't last long, but it looked so damn good doing it, I didn't even care. Finally, let's talk about the reboot that gave us emotionally wounded Lara and a masterclass in how to make dirt, blood, and tears look drop-dead gorgeous. Tomb Raider 2013 came in swinging, climbing, and getting impaled on spikes in glorious high definition. The environments were gritty and soaked in atmosphere, like someone said, "What if we made suffering look stunning?" Rain pelted Lara like it had a personal grudge, the lighting caressed every wet rock like a romantic novella, and the hair physics, don't even. Tress FX was so ahead of its time, I'm convinced it was powered by actual witchcraft and a hairstylist union. This game looked better covered in mud and ash than most modern games look after a $60 texture pack. Even the torchlight shimmered like it was programmed by a pyromaniac poet. I came for the rebooted story but stayed because every frame looked like it deserved a museum exhibit. Perfection, but make it primal. So yeah, maybe they're outdated, but these 15 games are still the graphical goats. Which one of these blew your mind the most, or did I miss your personal fave? Hit that like button, sub for more nostalgia-fueled breakdowns, and I'll catch you in the next one.